Great morning, great morning. Hello to our replay viewers. If you are watching during the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, and I don't know what time, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What's up? I see our live viewers popping on. Good morning to all of you guys as well. For those of you who are tuning into the replay, I'd like to make sure that just in case someone shared this video with you or you stumbled upon it yourself, I want you to know what the heck we are doing. Y'all, we're going over this book right here called Business Secrets from the Bible. Y'all see that? The subtitle says Spiritual Success Strategies for Financial Abundance, and the author is Rabbi Daniel Lapin. And so you have entered the world of business secrets from the Bible. If this is your first time, you've entered us while we're on secret number 24. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. What's up to my live viewers? I see y'all out there. How y'all doing? Hi, hey, hey. And so, yes, we are now on secret number 24, you guys. This is amazing that we're progressing through this book at such a rapid pace. It's just, yeah, the time passed. We've been going over it now for a month, which feels almost like a week. And we are over halfway through, this entire book. So, hey, great morning, sis. I see you, beautiful. What's up, lovely? Tanisha says, good morning, everybody. Let's see. So today, secret number 24, and I'm trying not to talk insanely loud because we ended up sleeping. The kids and I were sleeping over here. It's a room behind me. Then it's a bedroom behind there. And I'm hoping the baby stays asleep. So let's pray for that so we can make it through our time together. So secret 24, the more that things change, the more we must depend upon those things that never change. You guys, we've been talking about change a lot now for over a week. What's up, Laskya? Great morning to you too as well, lovely. We've been talking about change now for several days. We started on what day was that? I gotta look, you guys. Secret 21 was change is scary. Secret 22 was as painful as change can be, it often contains the seeds of growth. Secret 23 was because change is a constant reality, life is more accurately depicted as a video rather than a photograph. And today, once again, we are on secret 24, which is the more that things change, the more we must depend upon those things that never change. So let's dig into this one, y'all. Great morning, Eugenia. Hello, lovely. All right, y'all, let's say our prayer. And let's go ahead and dig into today's information. Great morning, Father. Thank you so much for allowing us to see another beautiful, miraculous day of yours. For today is a day that you have made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. This morning, God, we come to you just to say thank you. You've already done things for us that we could not do for ourselves, and we're already so grateful. We thank you for life. We thank you for strength. We thank you for the mental capacity and the heart to wake up and really want to follow you and pursue the purpose that you've placed in our heart, Father. For our desire is to just be more and more and more like you. Love the things you love, hate the things you hate, love on your people the way you love on your people. Give as much value to your people as you pour into us. We will continue to pour into others. Father, we will continue to be a blessing, and we thank you for putting us in a position to be able to do so. And so today, God, as we dig into secret number 24, we ask for your clarity. We ask for your guidance. God, this morning we ask for your mentorship and your coaching. Just direct us and give us the clarity that we always look for in this word, so we know that we are getting something from you. Father, you said that where two or more are gathered in your name, you would be in the midst. So Father, we know you are here with us this morning, because even though we are virtual and we are not physically next to one another, we are still gathered in your name. And so we have an expectation this morning that not only are you going to meet us here, but you are going to do something magical and miraculous and give us a word that we could not have received anyplace else. So this morning, Father, we stop and we say thank you. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being an ever-present help in our lives. And thank you for the peace that you've given us. Now we ask for your wisdom, as only you can give us. Do a supernatural surgery in our hearts, deep down where nobody even knows the places that we hide things. And so, God, we thank you this morning for all that you have done, all that you are doing, and all that you have yet to do in our lives. And we say amen, amen, and amen. All right, y'all. Let's go. Great morning. I see y'all popping on here. So again, right now, what we're about to do is dig into the more things change, the more we got to depend on and lean on those things that do not change, right? The more we have to lean on those things. So let's go ahead and let's dig into this. I thought this started out really interesting. There's some things in here that honestly, I was like, oh my God, I'm glad he put these in perspective, because I was like, Lord, have mercy. Okay, so he says that while there are things that change extensively, constantly, and perpetually, there are also things that remain constant, like what? Like these biblical secrets, for example. What he talks about is the fact that God's blueprint, it is unchanging. So he gives us this beautiful triangle. He uses a triangle shape in the book to show us the things that constantly change. Things like science, things like medicine, things like technology. They're constantly changing, constantly. Like, think about it. I use this example all the time now when I do a lot of presentations, because when I try to describe like cryptocurrency, for example, to some people, when they're like, wait, what is Bitcoin? Doesn't make any sense. Like, I just don't understand what you're talking about. It makes no sense, right? Hey, Skinny Minnie, I see you are on YouTube this morning. We are on Facebook. Yes, we're on Facebook this morning too. So so when I try to explain it to people, they're just like, you know what, that just doesn't make any sense. And I do understand it's kind of hard to grasp and wrap your brain around digital currency, right? So I like to put it in this perspective. Remember, we're talking about how things change constantly right now. I put it in this perspective. One day, my dad and I were having a conversation. This stemmed from when I went to visit Georgia. We have a beautiful team that is growing out in Georgia. And so I went to Atlanta to stay there for a couple of days, do some presentations, meet the team, help get some growth and momentum and things like that. And one of my beautiful teammates, not new, but a great sister friend of mine, I'm just happy I'm getting to know her in this capacity. She takes us on this beautiful tour. She has a beautiful home, and she takes us on this really cool tour in this small town that she lives in Georgia. She does not live in Atlanta. She lives like maybe an hour outside of Atlanta. So she takes us on this beautiful tour. And she was like, okay, I'm going to show you a real plantation home. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, gasp. I had so many mixed feelings. So afterwards, my parents are both Southern. They were raised in Mississippi. Come home, I'm talking to my parents about it. And my mom laughed at me because, see, this was a normal part of their lives. I honestly had never seen a plantation home in person, ever, like ever. Okay. Only on movies, never in person. And so my dad was like, I used to see those things all the time. So many people worked on plantations. To me, they get bused to plantations. I was like, really? It never occurred to me. So we continue to start talking about, just our lineage, our family history. And we start talking about his great-grandmother, his great-great-grandmother, and I think his great-great-great-grandmother. And so we started doing some dates, just kind of tracking back to how far or how close, it's really not far, how close slavery really is to like our current generations. Like, we were having that conversation. And so what we realized was that his great-great-grandmother was born in the 1800s. Now listen to this, 1800s. Now we're in 2000s. It seems so far away. It's really not. It's only 200 years, y'all. Like, that's really not far at all. And so we look at my dad's great-great-grandmother, which would be my great-great-great-grandmother. I want you to imagine 1800s, okay? Me having a conversation with my great-great-great-grandmother and me saying, Grandma, hey G-Ma, I'm going to give you a call on my cell phone. First of all, there's so many things about this that would make no sense to her, okay? Just imagine having a conversation with her born in the 1800s, because we honestly figured out that our family, there's so many family members, like they were born into slavery, or they just were born just after they were freed. And so they were still in slavery and bondage. So imagine me having a conversation with her and saying, I want to invent this thing where you have a phone that doesn't even have a cord. Like, you can talk without it being connected to anything, like no cord. So that's one. So it's not connected to the wall, G-Ma. It's not connected to the wall, Granny. And so you can just have the conversation, and not only you can talk to people, but you can actually have like a video conversation with them. So I can have a video conversation. They can be any part of the world, and I can have a video conversation because we have this connection to like something I think I want to invent, or there has to be a way to have a connection, maybe like an internet or something. Like, she would look at me like I had two heads. Now I want you to think about back in that time, what did they have? A telephone that was connected to the wall. That phone didn't take pictures. That phone didn't have apps. The internet didn't exist. There was absolutely no way to video chat. Kids would not have known how to use it. Like, there are so many things that would make that seem so weird and random and absolutely impossible, right? My dad never thought he'd see a black president in his lifetime because he grew up in one of the most racist parts of the country, Mississippi, during the Jim Crow era. He never thought he'd see a black president in his lifetime. He said, I thought eventually it might possibly happen, but never in my lifetime. So there are so many things that constantly change. Science, medicine, technology. Think about medicine today as compared to medicine before. You know, technology, how advanced it is. So with all the changes, whether they are good, whether they are bad, right? Good and bad. The thing about change is it still has this element that makes us uncomfortable because there's uncertainty wrapped around it, right? So even with all of that, he says that fortunately, we may take comfort in the knowledge that there are some things that do not change, ever change. And what happens is we can draw energy, power, wisdom, insight, and courage from these steadfast truths. Okay? Because see, when we talk about business, remember, we are talking about spiritual success strategies for financial abundance. All right? For financial abundance. Well, the way that we get that abundance, our strategies might change, but the principles that underlie the strategies do not. Okay? If you were Warren Buffett, you made a lot of money in the stock market. Now, every day, you got cryptocurrency millionaires popping up. Cryptocurrency? Digital currency? Who would have thought that that would have even been a thing, right? So it's a different type of wealth. However, the principles that underlie the acquisition of wealth stay the same. Hopefully, that makes sense, okay? And so we can use the things that never change to help us withstand the many things that actually do change, okay? So he talks a lot about this .com bubble. In the early 2000s, when the internet was really starting to take off, he talks about how websites, like a bunch of websites, would just pop up. And what businesses thought, they got excited because they were getting a lot of eyes on these websites. It's kind of like social media today. People get a lot of followers. They get a lot of eyes on their content. And so you had a lot of businesses backing these businesses, these startup businesses, and they were excited because they get a lot of eyes on their content, a lot of eyes on their website. A lot of people are looking. But what they found out was a lot of people were looking, but a lot of people weren't buying. And so there was this excitement about the .com era. But what ended up happening was a lot of people lost money. A lot of businesses folded. And the reason was because once they realized, wait a minute, people are looking at this stuff, but people didn't understand how to monetize it, which is what a lot of us go through now. A lot of you guys, same concept. You're trying to figure out how to get eyes on your stuff. And when you get the eyes on it, you're like, okay, so how do I turn this into money? How do I turn this into profit? That's an old problem. It's been going on for the last couple of decades because people get a lot of eyes on their content. But then how do you switch those from just eyes to actually someone buying? So the .com bubble burst because people were looking at content, but they were not buying. And one of the things that it brought up was the fact that he said the .com bubble is an example of the failure to cope with the change that results from not remembering that which never changes. One thing that never changes, and business owners should always remember this, is that business cannot last without making a profit. Y'all hear that? Business cannot last without making a profit. This is so interesting because he goes into, and that's why a lot of businesses went belly up during the .com era. They poured all these resources into websites, into the internet, but they did not understand how to monetize what they were doing. They were just getting eyes on their content. And so a lot of us This is why you don't buy followers. It makes no sense. Let me tell you something. I want you to not be impressed. This is a bonus training side note. I want you to not be impressed when you see somebody who connects with you who has 25,000 followers. This really happens a lot on Instagram. And a lot of people are so, they're so enamored with having a lot of followers that you'll buy them. And it is a waste of freaking money. You're buying them so you can look a certain way, but you're still not getting extra money in your pocket. Because see, if I see you have 25,000 followers and I go to your page and your picture literally has 17 likes, I know that's a load of crap. It's a recipe for disaster. You literally, what you did was the opposite of what you wanted to do. You wanted to show me that you have a lot of followers and you wanted to impress me so I could think that, hey, a lot of people think this person is legitimate, but you did just the opposite. Now I see you are not legitimate. You bought followers and your followers are fake. So just the opposite is happening when you try to take the easy route. Take it from me. I built an entire coaching business with like 1,500 followers. Literally. On Instagram, I had about 1,500, maybe 1,000. I think right now I might have 1,600 followers on Instagram. Whoop-de freaking do. I know it's no big deal to me. Okay. So at the time, I built a coaching business with maybe 1,000 followers on Instagram, like maybe 2,000 people on Facebook, and then maybe 1,000 friends, and none of it mattered. And I built a whole coaching sustainable business with that few people. It is not about the number of followers you have. It is about how engaged the people are who actually connect with you. If they're not engaged, 50,000 followers who never look at you, it's pointless. You're not going to monetize that successfully. And for the people who would be interested in connecting with you, you just showed us that your business model is completely illegitimate because these aren't real followers in the first place. You bought them. Okay. You got to know that. So that was just a side note. So let's get back to secret number 24. So one of the things that he talks about, and this is eye-opening. So for my classes, you guys, I had to study Greek, and I started studying Greek last year, and I was like, whoa, this was hard, right? I have not studied Hebrew. So everything that I'm hearing about Hebrew, I'm really hearing from this book. And so one of the things that he says about the Hebrew language is that when you have a word and it is spelled, so you have a word that means one thing, then when you take that word and spell it backwards, oftentimes it will mean the exact opposite of that first word. So for example, he gives us the word for wealth, which is pronounced osher, O-S-H-R, osher. He gives us that word. That word means wealth. So that means when you take the opposite of that, which would be R-H-S-O. Okay, let me write this so you guys can see it. Because if you're anything like me, I'm like, what? Okay, so osher, all right, is the Hebrew word for wealth. Okay, so this is what you're looking at. Osher. Hebrew word for wealth. He says when you take the opposite of that, which would be R-S-H-O, and I'm going to write it the way he wrote it in the book. Okay. Hold on. All right. Did I do it the same way? I think so. Okay. So when you take the opposite of that, which is R-S-H-O, you would think that it would mean poor. But it doesn't. It means evil. And I had to read through this a little bit because I thought this was so different. Okay. So let's read through this. Let's talk about this for a second. So he said you would think it would be poor, but that's not correct because see, we're not talking about a person. We're talking about a concept. The concept of wealth. Not a wealthy person, but the concept of wealth. So we're not talking about a person, but a concept. So osher is the principle of wealth, the principle, while the opposite is the principle of evil, the principle of evil. He said, in this way, ancient Jewish wisdom, or Hebrew rather, tells us that it is God's will for us to create healthy, vibrant, successful societies which require wealth because wealth is good. Remember, from earlier, we learned that wealth is God's reward for doing good. his reward. So if wealth is not being created, then evil is being done, which means people are making mistakes in their behavior. When people make good choices, when they serve one another, wealth is created. I just love the idea of serving to a capacity that you're rewarded with wealth. I love that concept. Let me say that again. When people make good choices, when they serve one another, wealth is created. And so we know that the absence of wealth on a societal level means an absence of good. It's really important. And he goes into a discussion in the next chapter of helping people understand, listen, this is not saying that if you're a person who does not have wealth, if you're a person that may be in poor conditions right now, then you're evil. That is not what he's saying. What he's saying is on a societal level is where we have this problem. So people are living on a societal level or in a society, in a community where there is evil. Okay, is his suggestion. He said there's a common myth, and it's in literature, popular culture, that poverty is somehow virtuous. And this is something that literally just makes my skin crawl, right? And I love the fact that he talked about it in this book. He said that's not true. True fallacy is what it is. Never associate poverty with virtue. Never assume that those living in poverty must be wholly good people. The truth is the reverse. If a society appears not to be blessed economically, we must take a hard look at that society and question whether they are truly behaving in the way that they should as a society, you guys. He says, once again, note, I am definitely not saying that individuals who find themselves in poverty are evil. Sometimes individuals are doing all they can, but they live in a hopeless, degenerate society or area or neighborhood that precludes wealth. The poor are not evil. Poverty is evil, for it is the lack of wealth. Do you guys understand that? Like, that's a powerful concept that takes some... especially if you live in an area where you've been in particularly poor conditions, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. And that's a principle. Okay. Similarly, just as the poor are mistakenly viewed as virtuous, the wealthy and successful are often viewed as evil. Okay. Which we all know is wrong. He talks about how before 1934, before this particular book was written, honestly, I had never even heard of. I've never even heard of this author. There's a man named Matthew Josephson. Never heard of him. Never. Okay. He wrote a book, and in that book, he referred to people like Andrew Carnegie, wealthy people, as robber barons. Before that, people who made money like an Andrew Carnegie, like a Rockefeller, those individuals were held in high esteem. People admired them, for what they had done. They really sought to emulate what they were doing. And so it was after that. Okay. Jacob's still asleep, right? Okay. You slammed the door, so I hope he's still asleep. It was after that. Sorry, y'all. It was after that people started to look at wealthy people as evil. Now, I want to point something out here because I thought this is really good. This is one of the things that I have noticed is that for the enemy, what he does oftentimes is there's like this counterfeit version of what God has created. And so he'll warp our minds around it. And when he warps our minds around what God has created or the concepts that God wants us to understand, it causes mass confusion. So for example, love is God's perfect thing. You got perfect love, and then you have lust, which is a counterfeit of love. It's a chemical reaction in your brain or in your body, and that chemical reaction can make you think you're in love when you're literally in lust. And so lust will cause you to do some of the most ridiculous things. However, love is the pure, beautiful form. And so what I have found in a lot of cases is that you have God's just beautiful form of something, and then the enemy just really confuses people about it by having what looks like a counterfeit version of it. Truly counterfeit version. So you look at wealth, which God uses to reward those who are really serving other people. I love that. I think that's powerful. I think that when we look at, part of the reason I'm not amassing wealth the way that I would like to is because Maybe I'm focused only on me amassing wealth. Maybe I'm not focused on helping people enough. How can I help people to a degree that it really benefits us both? What can I do on a higher level to help amass more wealth, but I'm really helping more people? I love that concept. And so what the enemy has done is taken that and he's twisted that. So that doesn't look like a powerful thing. That looks like the evil thing. But yet living in poverty looks virtuous. Think about that. What options do you have when you're in poverty? Think about what people do when they're in poverty, which is the point that people specifically are not evil. The concept is evil. Like, I truly, truly understand that. And so does Tawana. She's like, yes, she understands that. Okay. And so he wants us to understand that wealth is and always will be the foundation of a society. Okay. So he transitions from this to help us understand, okay, if these things are constantly changing, if science, if technology, if medicine, if these things are constantly changing, right? What isn't changing? What can I count on to be there that's not changing, right? So I can still use these success strategies and build this financial abundance, which is the entire purpose of the book. So what can I count on that's not going to change? So I understand that wealth is God's reward for me. I get that. Based upon how I'm serving people and serving his children. I get that. But if all this stuff is changing, and we know that change causes some of us to hyperventilate. We know if change is uncomfortable and it can be scary. How can I embrace this? Tell me what doesn't change. Okay, you guys, this is what does not change. God and the spiritual does not change. Human beings do not change. Physical rules of nature do not change. Those are your three. So 3 things that are constantly changing: science, technology, medicine. 3 things that are not: God and the spiritual, human beings, physical rules of nature. Things that do not change, I'm going to read this verbatim, include everything about human beings, everything about God and the spiritual, and everything about our environment or this place called Earth. That is not to say that individual humans or environments do not change, because clearly they do. But the principles governing human behavior and the way the world works are unchanging. And so those 2 things, along with God and the spiritual, form a 3-point triangle of things that never change. You want to understand them totally, because they are tools to help you cope with the onslaught of change in the world. You guys, things change at such a rapid pace right now. It's insane. Think about how fast technology changes. Like that right there, it's hard to keep our brains wrapped around. When I think about my life as a child, like just to put it in perspective, real talk, you guys, when I was a kid, small child, people didn't have computers in their houses. Like businesses had computers, like businesses. Most people didn't have computers in their house. I remember when we first got a computer. When I went to college, I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have a computer. We would physically go to the library and I'd use the computer in the library. That's how fast things change. And now we're in my house. Like I look at my house right now. So I got, I have an iPad, iPhone, and an iMac. Okay. There's a laptop right over there. There's a broken laptop there that we don't use anymore. There's a laptop right over there that my kids still use. My daughter has an iPad that the school gave her, and we didn't have to take it back at the end of the year. They were like, just keep it if you're coming back. My son had his iPad. We turned that one in because he's used it for the last 4 years at school. They get the same one. And so he turned his iPad in since he graduated. The amount of technology. Oh, and he has his own iPod. My daughter has her own tablet, and she's 7. And of course, my 14-year-old, he has his own iPod. These things are literally computers in their hands. They can do everything, for the most part, that my desktop computer can do. But when I was a child, there were not computers in people's homes. You had to be super wealthy to have a computer in your house. Literally. No one had computers in their houses. And I'm only 43. You guys, I'm 43. Put that in perspective. That's how fast things have changed. And so and I know you're like, dang, it did. Because some of y'all on here like, I didn't have computers in my house either. That is so true. But the reality is now everybody has a computer in their pocket. In their pocket. I remember my first cell phone. My very first cell phone I got when I was in college. When I came home from college, I got a cell phone. I was on my dad's plan, or he bought it or something like that. I remember I had that phone, and it was just a regular phone, like a little small phone. I remember I used to have the flip phones. Remember the razors that everybody was so excited about? I remember Blackberries. I used to have what do you call those things, guys? They're like, what do you call them? They're little planners, like pocket organizers. Yes, Laskya's like, remember beepers? When I was in high school, people had pagers. And honestly, the people who did have pagers, you ain't think the most positive stuff about those people. And so, let me see. I'm trying to think. What is that thing called? When I started my career in retail, it's like a 23-year-old. I used to have a pocket organizer. What was it called? You guys, I cannot even remember. It was like having a planner in your pocket. Okay, it was a mini computer. You could put all your dates and things in there, like appointments. It would help you. Yes, Eugenia, PDAs. That's it. I'm like, what was it called? I had 2 of those. I remember having those, but it never occurred to me that they would take that and a phone and a camera and a computer and smush them together in a device. It never even occurred to me. And because that's what our cell phones are now. That's what our cell phones are. And so think about it. So many people, oh, that's so good. I had a beeper and a big, thick Nokia cell phone. Man, remember how big? They used to be like this big, and they were in zip up bags. It was crazy how big phones and stuff used to be compared to now. Like if you watch any of the old movies, any of the old, like, I don't know, where they had the ballers in the movies. So probably like a New Jack City or something. I don't know. If you look at any of those, I bet you we would probably see the huge cell phones that were like massive. They went from here to here, or the ones they had in the car that were in the bag that you unzipped, that you plugged into like the lighter and crazy stuff like that. Technology has moved so quickly, like so fast, that a lot of people don't even have landlines anymore. In our house, I remember when we first dropped our landline, it was a big decision to drop that landline, a big decision. And now we don't have one. I've considered getting a business one, but I just use my phone, So that's how fast technology has moved, y'all. So that is why we have to look at the things that don't change in order to just ground us. Because y'all, things can change so fast, especially when you're in business. Think about social media. Am I the only one that's been trying to figure out, at times trying to figure out, how do I keep up just with the speed of social media? And when you have children, you're really trying to figure that thing out. But when you're using them for business, now you're trying to figure it out for business. Like, okay, so should I get on TikTok because TikTok is so huge? Should I do Snapchat? Snapchat is growing. Should I do this because this is like, should I be on these things? Should I be on Reddit? Like, Reddit's huge. Different things like that. It's not just Facebook anymore. It's not just Instagram. It's not just LinkedIn. Like, we're the old people if that's all we're using. True story. We're the old people. My son was like, Mom, I got an Instagram, but I don't even know how to get on there. I don't use that. He's 14. He doesn't use Instagram. You know what I mean? So the point is, things are moving that fast. So how do we keep ourselves grounded in a world that moves so ridiculously fast, right? We have to make sure that we are using things like, or understanding the three things that don't change: God and the spiritual, human beings, physical rules of nature, because they can keep us grounded. You guys, these are our pillars. There are pillars. I want you to think of large buildings when they have the pillars and the columns, that they need to have them for structure. Because if they don't have them, the building's going to collapse. That is you. That is me. These are our pillars. We need them so we can stay grounded and we don't collapse under the constant influx of change that we experience. See, our knowledge of these things, these pillars, it doesn't change over time. We must seek to understand them. It's not those things that change. See, God never changes. The spiritual never changes. It's our knowledge of those things that changes. Our goal is to advance and increase our personal knowledge and personal growth, okay? By understanding these principles that govern our lives. Listen, the knowledge is there, all of it. Okay, to be had now, just as it was at any point in history, but it is up to us to seek it out and master that knowledge. What he gives is a really good example for us to understand that, listen, human beings don't change. Because when I was reading this, I was like, I don't know if that's true, but I got his concept. Because see, we just talked about technology and how fast it's changing. Let's talk about this, y'all. My great-great-great-grandmother, my father's great-great-grandmother, when she raised children, guess what? The process of raising children doesn't change. The things our children have access to, that changes, but the process of raising children does not change. Children still need structure. They need guidelines. They need discipline. They need love. Those things don't change. That doesn't change. That's why he's saying human beings do not change. The principles by which we raise our children, they don't change, right? That doesn't change. And so we have biblical knowledge, biblical insight on how to raise our children. That's why he says the information's there. All of the knowledge, all of it's there. It's up to us to seek it out and to find it and to understand more of it. That is the personal growth journey that we're on. So as we got all these things about our lives that are constantly changing, and we need to understand this about business, we got to understand that there are things that don't change. They don't. And it is up to us to develop and to continue to grow and to continue to learn about those things that don't. He says we may use these pillars of unchanging wisdom to help us cope with the areas of life in the modern world that are in constant flux. This is why we must rely on that which does not change in order to cope with that which does. Think about how I was talking to a young lady the other day, and she's not in a beautiful place right now. There's some things going on in her marriage that are a bit challenging. And so she has a baby, and she was nursing her baby. And I was like, you want to know one of the things that was like the most beautiful to me when I had my first child? I realized this. I realized that no matter what is going on in life, I could lose my job. I could lose everybody around me. Wayne could have left me. Like, I could have been told that I was the worst person in the world. Everything that could possibly have gone wrong. Let's just say it did. But when I came home to my baby boy, always happy to see me. His love was infectious. His love was addictive. That's what's amazing about your babies. Their love is absolutely predicated upon nothing. They love you unconditionally. They are constantly just your babies. Now, teenagers, not so much. It depends on your relationship. But your babies, that's an addictive kind of love right there. Because no matter what's going on in the world, they're looking at you and they are head over heels in love with you. And they're always going to seek to try to make you happy and to love on you back and kiss your face, even with open mouths. Like my son, my 4-year-old, oh my God. He kissed me the other day. His mouth was open. I was like, Jacob, that's nasty. Can you close your mouth the next time? And so that part never changes. So we have to hold on to what doesn't change and seek to understand those things even more. How much more can you dig into God's word where it can help you become an even better business owner, a better entrepreneur, a better team player, just better? And when you do those things better, you learn how to serve better. Guess what happens? He rewards you with even more wealth. Y'all, it's worth it to become the best version of yourself. It's worth it. Like, I find myself wondering, Demita, how healthy can you really be? This weekend, I didn't prove that to nobody because I barbecued and we pigged out. About to go running now, though. Okay? Right? When we done, I'm going for a run. Okay? So, how healthy can I really be? I ask myself, Demita, how wealthy can you really be? I ask myself, Demita, how good of an entrepreneur can you really be? I ask myself, how much knowledge of scripture and wisdom can you really have? How good of a student can you really be? How fluent in Spanish can you really be? How great of a wife can you really be? How great of a mom can I really be? When I start thinking about these things, it makes me push myself to become the best version of myself possible. The best version possible. And I know when I do that, God honors that. And I know when I seek in my business to become the best coach, to become the best sponsor, to become the best leader, to become the best mentor, to become the best coach. I know when I do that and I really pour into other people and I do my best to help them win, guess what I know? I know that God will reward me with additional wealth. I know this. I know this. And so as we dig into this new week, I want you to think about this. I want you to challenge yourself. Yes, things are constantly changing. But for the things that do not change, we must cling and hold on to those things. Not only that, we must seek to understand those things that do not change because the wisdom is there. The wisdom's there. Now, how do we use it? All right, y'all, that's it for the day. I hope you have the most beautiful, magical Monday. Monday, one of my favorite days of the week. I want you to completely change your perception of Monday. It should be your favorite day of the week. You know why? Because you get an opportunity to do it all over again. You get a redo. You get a reset every single Monday. You get to reset for the week. Don't let people have you thinking Monday's a bad day of the week. No. Monday is the day that we can reset. Tomorrow we are on to secret number 25. Press forward even when the road ahead is not clear. Y'all, we are 24 secrets down, 16 to go. So within the next 16 days, we will have covered 16 weekdays. We'll have covered everything in this book. And y'all did it. Have an amazing rest of your Monday. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Love you guys to life. Bye-bye.